head presentation on charging of handheld devices and even supplying electricity to an LCD screen at a distance. And in this case, it was a couple meters. We see that in the future for handheld devices. You walk into a place like this, you can actually have your cell phone, whatever device with you, your tricorder, is being charged as you're in the room. The vehicles will be charged and connected to the grid when they stop at different locations, when you stop at work, when you're at home. All of this will very much be an overall, huge expansion of energy supply and the internet. And in addition, on the transportation side, people are going to start buying what they need, which is transportation, which is mobility, not a car, not an airplane ticket. You buy a way to get somewhere, to move yourself, and that's going to be tied with it also. So the vehicles will become less of a personal possession and more of just the total infrastructure, which will allow it to fit with the power grid and the rest of it.
From a technological point of view, my personal feelings are that electricity goes where it wishes to go. It's not something you can control. You put it on the grid, and it finds a load, there are more loads, it finds more loads. It's sort of a continuous thing. So power control of the electricity, this is where smart grid comes in. There's that opportunity to optimize the grid and control the power flow and where it goes. The second is storage. We are really in trouble, in my opinion. We have battery storage, and the electric vehicle area is working feverishly to have the right battery technology for 40, 60, 80-mile scenarios and storage and what have you. But the real storage for static technologies, the wind technology has the variability without storage becomes an issue. Power control is very important relative to how you dispatch and dispatchability. But from a scientific point of view, and I get to what John was saying, maybe this is Tim, but embedded intelligence to me is exciting. How do you develop the artificial intelligence at a location where you have autonomous operation? It gets into the space age, thinking of things doing things when they're supposed to do things and making it happen on site at the load or at the generation. That's really the futuristic part that I see we need to do a lot in, and I think for what is being suggested here, in 5 or 10 years, their technologies will be phenomenally different because of the artificial intelligence and research that's going into that. It has a lot to do with anthropological. How do we live? How do the birds and the animals? We're using models that basically why these animals do what they do. It has a lot to do with behavior, and behavioral science is really going to come into play also. So there's a lot of exciting things to do in the science side and the engineering solving side. But again, it gets right down to the bottom line, which is hard to solve unless you make a profit.
Well, the next question deals more with the present and some of the cold realities that we're facing. The DOE, the Department of Energy, reported in August that they had received 431 applications for $3.9 billion in smart grid funding. The applications accounted for about 7 or 8 times that amount, about $24.6 billion in proposed projects. And keep in mind that the people proposing these projects were not a spate of startup companies shooting the moon. These were established utilities, municipalities, consortia. These were established people requesting $24.6 billion.
Some startup companies trying to shoot the moon.
And just recently, the DOE announced that they were going to cancel the third phase of applications, and they might even cancel the second phase because they think that with this first phase of applications alone, they've already accounted for all the money that's available, and they think that these projects have such merit that they won't even need to get any more applications. So, the question for the panel is, do you think that the government is not offering enough financial support? Do you think that there should be more? If the government is not offering enough financial support, where's the additional money going to come from? How is this all going to be financed?
I don't know that I think there's plenty of financial support being offered. However, I think it would be a big mistake for them to cut off these future rounds of solicitations. I mean, it's a bit of bureaucratic laziness, quite candidly. I think it'd be like the patent office saying, we got enough of a backlog, stop sending them in. And let's just go with a snapshot of what's been invented as of 10 years ago. I think we need to keep this going and going and going with no further innovation.
When I look at it, I think there's two policy issues going on there. One is the smart grid and one is economic stimulus. I think that the government looked at the smart grid really as to accelerate the smart grid as part of the economic revitalization. But I do think it's important, if in fact it is stimulus, it should be stimulating further investment. And I would, I also think, that's why it's very important that there be a business case behind the smart grid. And so I think, the one probably questionable unfairness here is there was probably parties out there that would think, okay, I'm going to fly in round 2 or round 3. And it's a little probably questionable about how that might feel from a fairness point of view to have the rules change after the beginning. But I think it would be, I don't think it would be good news for the industry to find out that if there's not stimulus dollars, there's not going to be a smart grid. So I'm very hopeful that, just like we saw the race here, getting up to almost $25 billion in applications, there's literally a smart grid arms race going on. I hope that it takes root, because I believe firmly that this is not optional. This is a matter of necessity. So I'm hoping that there won't be any, either way the policy goes from the stimulus dollars, I'm hoping it continues to take place at this point.
I think the only thing I would add is the state of California already allocated $3.9 billion to the smart grid long before the federal government came along and even was talking about it from an allocation perspective. And I think that the President of the United States is on record as saying that he thinks it will take $100 billion over the next 10 years, 15 years of additional investment by the federal government. If you go back to what Luke said in his keynote, this is perhaps one of the greatest, most significant efforts our country will have undertaken. And so if you put it in context of the railroad system or other large undertakings, right, that the federal government or federal taxpayers or ratepayers or consumers are going to foot the bill in some way. We're going to finance it in some way. And I would be hard pressed to think that $3.9 billion is the only financing that the federal government is going to allocate to it.
Dick, where's the rest of that $850 billion get come from?
Are there any federal employees here?
Other than you.
I'm not a federal employee. I'm a contractor. I used to be years ago, and I work for Patel Memorial and Midwest Research Institute. But I can speak, I think, a little bit candidly about it. I think the $4.5 billion in general is a good down payment. It sets a benchmark. We need to learn as to where we're going with this thing. And until we do something like this $4.5 billion investment, and to California, obviously, there's, I think we've been talking this for 12 years. We have written more program visionary documents in the last 7 years, and nothing has ever occurred. The Office